Okay, so I did my project on plant-rich diets as a solution for the um, problems caused by meat consumption. Meat is a really important staple protein for most of the humans in Earth's history. While there are a lot of groups and societies and areas that practice vegetarianism and even veganism and religions, meat has been eaten widely and is also something that has become widely available over time, as opposed to in the past when meat was harder to come by. So mass production of meat has increased due to the fact that so many people have started eating meat. And mass production of meat is not only environmentally problematic, but has always raised ethical questions, especially considering um, the consistently worsening conditions of um, poultry and beef, especially mass production. Um, so it's an ethical issue for a lot of people. So there are the ethics of how dirty these facilities are, how cruel some of the practices that take place are, as well as the ethical concerns for the environment. Um, so despite the fact that there has been a growing surge in veganism as a movement, and plant-based diets and reducing meat consumption for environmental good, we've actually seen that the average amount of meat consumed has nearly doubled in the past 50 years. It was around 23 kilograms per year in 1961, and now it's doubled to 43 kilograms in 2014. And since meat consumption has doubled so quickly, we've seen an increase in the amount of meat being produced. And mass consumption of meat actually is mass production of meat and of livestock for other uses actually contributes to 14.4% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And meat consumption or meat cultivation or livestock production uses about 77% of agricultural land. So what we see is that so much of this land that could be used for growing crops or for wildlife is being used for meat. And it's a much less sustainable, much less renewable source of protein than other plant-based sources of protein. So it ends up using way more water, energy, and emitting way more greenhouse gases than growing vegetables does. Reducing your meat consumption is one of the best ways to prevent climate change. So some deterrents to adopting plant-rich diets include the fact that veganism and plant-based diets have historically kind of alienated the poor and are considered, part of gentrification and especially in Western culture. And I think veganism, there's a lot of myths and misinformation surrounding veganism that leads many people to believe that it's a much more expensive lifestyle. It's much more difficult. And also that if you are impoverished or even middle class, you don't have necessarily enough time or enough money to have a healthy vegan or vegetarian even diet. And also the fact that low-income neighborhoods are often become food deserts where fresh produce is unavailable or even more expensive than in higher income areas. So you can see the map of the United States, and that is from NPR. And it just maps out places that are qualify as food deserts in the United States. So you can imagine that it's really difficult to adopt any sort of diet when you don't have access to a grocery store and you don't have access to the fresh produce that you need to have a healthy vegan diet. So some ways you can take action are by informing yourself and figuring out you can educate yourself on some of the ways that you can adopt an inexpensive vegan diet and some of the easy ways that you can get enough nutrition from a vegan diet. You can also reduce your meat consumption slowly over time and not necessarily feel like you or anyone else needs to immediately become completely plant-based, you can actually sort of engage in having meatless dinners or just days where you don't eat meat, and even that helps and will move you towards closer to a plant-based diet. You can also talk to your friends and family about the benefits of reducing meat consumption and try to spread around some of this information about how bad meat is for the environment. And it's also important to, when you do buy meat, to support your ethical local companies and do research on how the meat is produced, because those companies do contribute much less to climate change than the mass production of meat. And you can also support some of the initiatives that are available to fix food deserts, like this nonprofit indoor farm in Denver called Grow House that's helping to get food to fresh food to food deserts. So you can look into some of the food deserts in your area and see if there's any way that you can support the initiative to stop them. And last slide is worksite.